Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Asaph Cafe. I am Asaph Adonai, and here's our cafe. Here's our hostess, Patti.
Hi!
And Asaph Cafe is a show where every week I invite a guest, and I play the piano while we talk.
You're fine. Good job.
Now, this episode here, our literal guest is the dog, Pee-wee. Pee-wee is our guest for this segment of Asaph Cafe. So we're going to play.
She's single and looking for a hot date. She can't count enough about it.
So I'm going to start playing from the movie Titanic and see if Pee-wee likes it.
That means she likes it.
And that's the theme to the movie Titanic.
And Celine Dion did a very good job. I got teary-eyed when I heard the motions of it.
And Leonardo DiCaprio was a much younger man at the time when that movie was made. And
his co-star sure was happy. Well, actually, they were both leading stars. He was the leading guy, leading actor for males, and she was the leading actress. Mm-hmm. And I always forget her name, even though she was very beautiful and very good. They deserved every Academy Award they got.
Yeah, there's some people who are blessed with looks, and I think those two are going to be good looking when they get old, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's some actors out there that don't age, you know?
Mm-hmm. I know.
There's quite a few. They just know how to hide it.
And so how's Pee-wee Day?
Well, Pee-wee has been waiting to come here as every week. She just loves being the pet mascot.
Hey, that's a good thing, the mascot.
Yep, she likes being the MCAT mascot, and she likes to give us lots of compliments for the music that you play and the songs I try to sing along with.
Why don't you pick her up and put her in front of that camera? I think it's this camera right here. Let the audience see Pee-wee.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pee-wee is our literal guest today on Asaph Cafe.
Hi, everybody. I'm here for American Male Dogs. Please help me. I need a date. Now. Here you go. Here's your throne. There you are. All right.
Doesn't that sound like something off of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, that song? Yeah.
She's more like, who are the people in your neighborhood?
Well, our guest that was supposed to be here today unfortunately got sick. So Pee-wee is sitting in.
And he had called me too. He had called me up to see if he comes on this show, that we could come on his show. And I said we could do that.
Yeah, okay. Well,
it's a fair trade.
Yeah, fair trade. So our guest got sick. Pee-wee is sitting in for our guest, and she is going to be our literal guest for this first taping of Asaph Cafe today. And what do you think, what's a song that a dog would like? How about the theme to Lassie? Do you remember Lassie?
Oh, well, I don't know if she knows that one. She hasn't seen the show.
Well, let me play it and see if our studio
But
audience
she could
knows
do the
it.
Melissa Etheridge one. Somebody bring me some water.
Okay. I'm sorry, let me do it again.
You have to whistle. I can't do the whistling part, so.
I can't either.
It should have actually been Laddie instead of Lassie. Everybody thought it was a female dog the whole time when they did Lassie. It was a male dog. She just likes making history.
Well, Pee-wee's going to be the first dog to ever be on a television show as an actual guest. Usually when they have animals on shows, they always just show them, like when you watch Carson.
Well, yeah, it's like they're
on.
from the zoo and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But we don't have a zoo in Missoula, really.
So Pee-wee is our literal first animal guest on Asaph Cafe today.
They worked on having a petting zoo one time in Missoula, but the closest they came was the fair.
So I'm going to try to play appropriate songs I think a dog would like.
She likes rock and roll. She likes what I like. So if it's Journey, she's off and wagging her tail and going on.
Here's a fun
Your
song.
chair. You stay in your chair. No, I want you into your chair. You want to dance? You want to do a dance? Okay, do the dance from here. Ready? Here we go.
There you go. Maybe you can put her on the corner of that table there and do that. I'll play that again and get her to do a little shaky dance here.
She's good from there. Let's do it like this. Whoops.
Yeah, put her on the edge of that table there and
On the
see.
table?
Yeah, literally
Oh,
on
that might be too much.
Okay.
Here we go. Yay!
Yay!
Dance.
So she dances to the hokey pokey.
Oh boy.
You know,
Next is Twister.
when I was a little boy, everybody did that song. We did it in class too.
Yeah.
You know, seriously, where we had to put our right foot out for real and our
Oh,
left
wow.
foot out, our hand.
Yeah, I
out.
remember when I was going to school,
All that.
what I had to do is the hustle. I learned that. And my gym teacher was Mr. the Burrito, but we called him Mr. Burrito. And then to catch up with the times, the first time I was in Grand Junction, Colorado, the first thing I passed was this park loaded with senior citizens, and they were doing a dance. And I did not know anything about the Margarita, but that was the dance that they were all doing. Hey, Margarita. And these people were all doing their little thing in the Margarita. So that's what Grand Junction is good for. He knows the hustle.
I don't know how to play that song. I'm just making it up at the moment.
There was another song later that year. A guy came in with a synthesizer, and he played the song Popcorn.
I remember that. Yeah. You know, actually, that was an interesting era, the disco era. I don't know if people will remember that, but
If they think of Saturday Night Live, they might remember it.
yeah, that was what in its heyday in the early '70s, I believe, if I remember.
Yeah.
And you had groups emerging on the scene like the Bee Gees and
Just
Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can pick that out. It's rambling.
I was petrified, thinking I could never live without you by my side. And I spent so many lonely nights thinking how you did me wrong. And I grew strong, and I knew how to get along. And now you're back from outer space. I just seen that same look upon your face. I could have changed that stupid lock. Should have changed my wrong. And I learned how to get along. I will survive. I will survive. I know I'll stay alive. And I don't know all the words. But everybody at karaoke knows that song. It's like the national anthem. She actually, Gloria Gaynor actually went on the 70s show.
Oh, she did?
And there was a scene where it was the prom.
Uh-huh.
And the guy who plays Fez picked up on her, and he started doing his little thing, and she was singing. And they did actual little spotlight where the whole cast ended up singing and dancing with her on the dance floor. It was
I
cool.
see.
Yeah, it was cool. But then after that craze, they had Jane Fonda trying to change it to, you have to dance to be healthy. And she's just revived her VHS tape into a new DVD series now.
Well, I tried that Jane Fonda workout, and after about 5 minutes, I thought I was going to just die of muscle cramps. I mean, I guess people shouldn't underestimate Jane Fonda like they do when they see that video. That lady was in real good shape at that time. I don't think people realize it.
She loves Russell Crowe too. She makes sure that she's
Well, I'm
got
sure
the hots for him.
older Jane Fonda now, I'm sure she's still quite in shape for a lady older now, but
Oh, yeah.
I tried that workout. I was like, no.
Well, on the Academy Awards, her and Lily Tomlin were actually making crack jokes about each other because they were on 9 to 5 together, and Lily says, well, I knew we'd be back together. I knew somehow it would happen.
Well, let's have fun. I'm going to do some disco songs. I'm going to just pick them out at random. Let's see if you know this one
I
here.
know everything by Donna Summer.
Well, let's see. Okay.
On the radio, for yourself. Love you still.
We're going back in time here. Okay, take it away. Just your second verse. Ready?
I don't know the
Oh, you don't know words? Okay. Well, let me play it then. You can sing along though. Go ahead.
I'm waiting for the chorus.
It's coming up. And here's the conclusion. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that part. I I remember the first verse a little bit, and then the chorus, yeah, big time.
Well, anyway, as I was saying, there were a lot of groups that emerged on the scene.
Blondie was another one.
Yeah, and one of my personal favorites was, Funky Town.
Oh.
Won't you take me to Funky
Yeah,
Town? That was my personal favorite of the disco
I know the chorus
era.
to that, but I don't know the verses.
It goes something like this. And that sounds cool because it had these really low bass notes in there. Missed that note there.
That's what started a lot of R&B too, because they were mixing Motown with disco, and that's what they came up with.
Let's see if we can get the chords, and I gotta get some. Let me try this again.
Won't you take me to?
Well, hold on. Let me try it again.
Funky Town. Won't you take me to Funky Town? Won't you take me to Funky Town? Won't you take me to Funky
Something
Town?
like that, yeah. But anyway, yeah, in that era, there were so many groups that came out. Just tons of them. And some of them were what you would call one-hit wonders. You know, like they would get one song in that disco era,
and then
it become a hit.
Million, I'm done.
Well, you know, there's another saying, take the money and run. Take the money and run. That's what I would have done, because I'm not a singer, so if I would have lucked up back then and got a song that became a hit, and then novelty wears off, I would just quit.
They had like, what's his name? Michael Martin Murphey. He came out with 2 songs, and they couldn't classify him either in country or rock, so they did him in both.
Here's another song I think that came from that era. I'm not going to tell you the name of it, but see if you recognize it.
Putting on the Ritz.
Let me try it again.
Fashion fits. Putting on the Ritz.
And what was his name? Was he called himself Taco or Paco or? I don't remember.
Yeah, he had a look that was like a gangster.
Yeah, he wore like this
like he was like
tuxedo,
like
if I
fancy
remember.
casino mafia dude.
Yeah, and he's saying that, and I think that came from that disco era too.
Yeah, there's a guy out now. I think it might have been the same guy though, but there was a guy out now that's done some of the songs similar to his. But they had the OJs, and then they had the Andy Gibb. He had his own thing.
Yeah,
And Seals and Crofts.
Yeah, and
they were more mellow though. They weren't really too much.
But if you
Then
notice
they had
that music
Blondie.
in that era had that same distinctive beat, that you know, and just it just grew on the scene, and eventually the novelty of that kind of music wore off.
But you know the funny part though, there is actually a radio station out there that plays nothing but like I think it's for a couple of hours straight of disco. It's around lunch hour. It's called Disco Lunch, and they play a couple of hours of everything you could have ever
From that era, huh?
Yeah, everything you could ever imagine.
Yeah, but yeah, Funky Town was my personal favorite, and I was a Donna Summer fan too during those years.
And then we had the Jacksons kind of got into that, and the Osmonds kind of got into that, but not as big. Not as big.
And also.
Then you had Elvis. Elvis was getting into that.
And there was another artist. What's her name?
Dionne Warwick.
No, she wasn't in that era necessarily. Something Heller or something.
Helen Keller? No, Helen Reddy.
I don't know. It was something.
There was Helen Reddy,
African-American singer.
And she sang "I Am Woman." You know, "I Am Woman." Hear me roar. And then let's see, what was another one? The Carpenters were a little bit into that. Then Paul McCartney got into that a little bit.
And of course,
Elton John got into that.
And we can't forget John Travolta too.
Yeah, well, he
most dominant figure.
He sang one song and went back to acting.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he did Saturday Night Fever too. So.
Yeah. Well, that one's forever. Yeah.
Well, that to me was a very difficult film to watch because of the language.
Yeah.
But if you take the language out of that movie,
he helped a lot of singers out.
Well, I'm sure he did, and I'm not trying to pick on John Travolta because I don't think it was him personally, but even if they had take out the language of that movie, the storyline still would have been just as effective, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, to me, it was glorifying how Italians wanted to get out there in that era.
I understand, and I'm not being critical. It's just it would be nice to be able to make a film without the language for people who prefer not to have that. And Saturday Night Fever was full of it, full of that language.
Well, I think they were trying to make a point about Studio. Was it Studio 51? It was a famous studio that was a dance studio. And most people don't know that the guy that owned it, I think he was part of the mob, but they didn't stick to straight disco dancing. They had other activities going on there, and I think that was kind of like part of the spotlight also as Saturday Night Fever, trying to glorify and make it a little bit less full, incriminating, but with criminal activity, but they were trying to make it a little bit less, more focused on this is about disco, Then the people, then the guy goes, well, that's not good enough. Let's make a real movie about my studio. So shortly after that, they came out with the real version, which was more glorified in the wrong direction. And so we knew what was happening in the big city back then.
It's kind of hard to play Flight of the Bumblebee on these kind of pianos, Well, what do you think,
Can you play popcorn? Can you try popcorn?
Oh, let's see if I can even remember how that.
That was the synthesizer, so it may or may not. It goes.
Hold on, let's see if I can. Hold on, let me think. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. Something like that.
Oh, well, and it's really funny when I was 9 and I seen that. The synthesizers back then, you guys got in the right era, because back then they were huge. They were like bigger than this keyboard here. And the guy had to work with all these extra buttons and everything. He was busy working buttons and trying to play at the same time, and it was wearing him thin. He was getting really worn.
Well, let me ask Pee-wee. Pee-wee, what do you think about the disco era?
She's already wore out. I'm ready to go. There's no dancing in here for me.
Well, these songs that I'm playing today, I don't play them every day on the piano. They're not really piano songs. I'm just picking them up.
Right.
It's good for my playing by ear to see if I can pick it out random.
Well, did you notice too that the one thing that most of the groups did, which I like the OJs and so forth, just like back in Motown era, the backup singers and stuff all had their little dance. They had to do, and they didn't lose that when they started doing the disco era, because they still had their little dance, even if they were like Earth, Wind and Fire. Even if they were holding their trumpet, they were still doing the dance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
And they'd blow and then go back to dance.
Well, there were some interesting groups in that era too. I wouldn't say they were disco, like there were the Ohio Players, I think, and Earth, Wind and Fire, Tower of Power.
Yeah,
I think
Commodores.
Those 4 groups were the main groups, I think, of that era. And like you're talking about those trumpet players that would spin their trumpets and things, and
and then they had Chuck Mangione. He was back then.
Oh yeah, let me see if I can figure out "Feel So Good." Hold on, I'm gonna make this up.
Yeah, there you go.
Something like that. I don't just.
That's pretty good. That's better than what I could get.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't remember how
They
that
had,
went.
they actually had on if you ever watch King of the Hill, it's a cartoon. They had an episode where Chuck Mangione was actually at this supermarket store, and they were selling all these products, and then there was somebody that was impersonating him with a mask, and it turns out it was one of the co-workers that worked there. And so him and the gang from King of the Hill, Hank and all them, and Dale and all them, they decided to trap the guy. And then at the end, they have Chuck playing that
The
song.
real Chuck Mangione, yeah.
Yeah. Tom Petty's on that show, too.
But see, our younger audience that might be watching this particular cafe may not even know who these artists are or whatever. Gloria Gaynor, I'll Survive. I was trying to remember her name.
She's still number one. They actually devoted a episode of it. I can't remember which talk show it was. Might have been The View. But she came on there and she sang her I Will Survive song. And then they talked about how that affected so many people, you know, that have just gotten to the point where they don't want to go on anymore, which I totally understand. I totally understand that because there's a lot of elements that help you get to that point. If it ain't the money, it's politics.
And there was another song, If I Can't Have You, I Don't Want Nobody, Baby. And what is the name of that artist? It's,
she was Yvonne...
Ellerman, that's it. Yvonne Ellerman.
She was on Saturday Night Live.
The real?
Yeah. I mean, not Saturday Night Live, but Saturday Night Fever. She was on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And that was at the disco.
Irene Cara was also in that era, too.
Yeah. What a Feeling.
Yeah. And I thought she was such a good-looking
woman at that time. And that came from the movie
Fame? Yeah.
Yeah, talking about the Julio Arts. That's what it was about.
Yeah.
I felt, after I seen the movie, I watched the series every single day, every week it came on.
Well, that's a crude analogy of what it was like when I was at the conservatory, like that TV show Fame. Only not as dramatic, obviously.
Well, it's not so Hollywood. When you actually are playing the part of the character, and it's reality TV without the camera, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
It's a lot different. A lot more pressure. Because the fact that you have to audition to get into the school, right there is pressure.
I had to audition before I got into the conservatory at the time. I went to San Francisco Conservatory right almost literally after I graduated high school. I did student teaching. First I graduated when I was 17. I did student teaching for 2 years at my old junior high school, Foothill Junior High School in California. And I was a teacher's assistant for five band classes a day for 2 years. And I knew I wasn't going to want to be no teacher after that. And then I was 19 by that time, and that's when I got into the conservatory.
Well, I've been like a teacher's aide for preschool. We're talking Head Start. And the comical part about that is you can't make them all sit there for a song, especially if they don't know the song. So unless you add gestures, you know, like the wheels on the bus goes around, and you have to go like this, you know, to get them going on the itsy bitsy spider. You have to actually get them to physically move their hands because they don't want to sit and just be attentive, you know. And now they're starting school, which I think is kind of comical. I mean, I understand it, but for toddlers. And that's going to be more of an athletic rink for the teachers because they're going to have to go, no, come back here. You got to sit here and learn this. And then if they get tired of learning, they do like PB and they go to sleep or they throw a tantrum. So good luck with that, preschoolers. Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is just an impromptu episode here. These songs I'm playing, I've never really played them. I'm just picking them out by ear. This is good for me to test my ear.
Just remember, every good dog has its day.
And we're just doing impromptu stuff, talking about the disco era and all the artists that I think the younger generation probably won't even remember or know who they are. But that was an interesting period in history.
To them,
music
disco
history.
Means Michael Jackson.
Yeah, no, the disco.
And that was later.
Bee Gees, that's disco.
Yeah.
Funky Town, that's disco.
Yeah.
Yvonne Ellerman, that was her name. Donna Summer, like I mentioned, all those people.
Donna Summer was the queen of disco. They actually labeled her that, and then you had Blondie in that era.
Yeah, I remember Blondie, and of course we can't forget John Travolta. He's probably the most dominant
And the one
figure.
show that came on every time at midnight was the Midnight Special with Wolfman Jack.
I remember him. Oh yeah.
And I met him. I actually met him.
You got to meet him in real life?
Yeah. It was interesting. He is a big guy.
I'm sure he was.
He did keep his beard trimmed, and he looked like Doctor Strange, kind of.
Yeah, he had that voice. Hey, this is the Wolfman Jack, and we're here to talk to you today about whatever it was they talked about, you know.
It was in the 80s, and I was down on Larimer Square where they had Halloween, and in Denver, Colorado. And he was inside. They had set up a boxing rink setup, and he was inside this boxing rink by himself, and he was introducing to all the people down there, which was a huge crowd. You could not see the street. It was that many people, a multitude.
Well, he was very popular. He was very popular.
He had one. There was one group that got on that kind of looked like in between Ghostbusters and something else, and they were slam dancing, and he didn't like it. So so what he decided to do to make him settle down and quit slam dancing, which basically, if you don't know what slam dancing is, you hear this really loud music that makes no sense, and you run into people like bumper cars.
Go ahead. I'm listening to you, and I'm playing this for Pee Wee too.
So what happened is he goes, "Let's do slam dance," and he went running after everybody in the rink, and he was bumping everybody around until they got out of the ring. He goes, "Now, those of you that get on here to slam dance, I will slam dance with you if you want to do that." And that's how people behaved. After that, it was just go back to judging the costumes.
Do you recognize the song I'm playing for Pee Wee?
It came off of a commercial for Oscar Mayer wieners.
You close. It's a cat, the cat food commercial.
Meow, 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 meow. No, I didn't swallow a cat.
But anyway, that was a very interesting era. And you know what's fun about this particular episode of this show? Our guest didn't show up today, so the stuff we would have talked about, we're not going to be able to talk about. And the music I would have played, I'm not able to play. So I'm just going to do this impromptu commercials, disco, whatever. Oh, we had to remember George Hamilton, the actor. He was very dominant.
Oh, yes, he played Love's First Bite.
Yeah, Mr. Tan, George Hamilton.
He was funny as a vampire. Oh, my God. My favorite scene was the scene where he goes out and I can't remember who the guy was that was playing his Igor, but he's a very famous actor, too. And he was so desperate to find a neck to bite, he wasn't being picky anymore, right? So he's seen this drunk old bum in the alley, and he's like, "There's a candidate," but he didn't realize the guy was drunk, right? So he drinks all the blood, and then he decides that he's gonna go back home because he's had plenty of blood, right? He's all drunk, and they show him as a bat, and he's crashing into walls and stuff like a staggering drunk. He makes it back, goes, "Igor! Igor! Is there anybody around who's been drinking coffee? I need a different set of blood." "Master, you sound drunk." "I am drunk. I hate being a vampire. It's a lonely life. You never die. You never keep a mate. You're always biting somebody's neck, and this time I got drunk. I can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore."
I never actually saw that film.
It's funny. It's very funny.
The only movie that I remember seeing the actor George Hamilton was Zorro the Gay Blade.
Oh, yeah. He was good
I found that very amusing. I mean...
He was good at that one, too.
I don't want to offend anyone who may be gay, but, you know, Hamilton played two characters, and so he was playing Zorro, who was this goofy Zorro that always got in trouble, and it was the gay Zorro that always saved his neck and saved the day.
Pink is a popular color.
So...
Very popular.
But again, that was the disco era, and that movie I think came out in that era.
I like that era though. That era, just like in the 50s and 60s when people were just learning how to bebop to different types of music and stuff and dance. Music, you know, and that the disco just motivated people to want to dance.
Yeah.
If you have a problem, go find some music and dance. You know.
Yeah.
And that still works for the day, but I find that most places now, they don't really want to have, you know, like Missoula went from having several places you go dancing to nothing.
Now, we got to remember another actor, the actor Kevin Bacon. Wasn't he in that era, too?
Footloose, but Footloose was in the 90s, I think.
Okay, that wasn't in the disco era? Mm-hmm. Okay, well.
And Kenny Loggins helped out there with Footloose, the song.
Okay, so that was a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
And,
but Elton John did a whole bunch of them. Elton John was...
In the disco era?
Mm-hmm, he did...
I guess I wasn't aware of that.
Crocodile Rock, he did.
Oh, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah, he did Crocodile Rock. He did Benny and the Jets, and he had those wild, remember the wild eyeglasses he kept coming up with that were bigger than his face. Jets.
Ah. Something like that. I don't know. If I were
And
to,
then he did Rocket Man. He did
if
that
I were to
one.
learn that or try to pick it out, I could probably learn it in a short period of time.
The only song that was more mellow was Yellow Brick Road. Goodbye, Yellow Brick Road. That one was more, nobody really wanted to dance to that one. It was like, oh, okay.
You know, time's flying by. We're almost out of time on this first taping of this impromptu Asaph Cafe.
The one song that did get him good is "Don't Go Breaking My Heart." And he had another woman doing her part, so they did like a duet together. Mm-hmm. And she at first almost didn't do it because she knows his lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So she almost did not show up in the studio, and he's like, please, he begged her. And when she got there, she's like, I really shouldn't be here. I really shouldn't be here. He's like, you'll be fine. He grabs it. They actually show it on, if you look on the internet, they mm-hmm. actually show the video. And he's pulling her literally in the recording studio. She goes, here, put these on, the headphones. And she's like, all right. He goes, come on, Katie, you can do it. Please mm-hmm. do it. I need you. I don't want to put it off no more. I'm on a scheduled contract. You know.
And ladies and gentlemen, again, this is a very impromptu version of Asaph Cafe. Our guest who was supposed to be here got sick, and so the songs I would have played that were prepared, I decided not to play them. I'll save them in case he chose. His name is Brother Smith, and if you're watching, Brother Smith, get well soon.
Honey and Echinacea will go a long way with listening.
And we'll probably have Brother Smith on a future show if he gets well enough.
And I'll be at West Side Lanes tonight at 9 o'clock.
Oh, yes.
Over by Wyoming and off of Russell Street.
And you sing there every Thursday, right?
Try to. Unless the weather's bad, I'll be there.
So our sit-in guest for Brother Smith is Pee Wee, who now is taking a little doggy nap.
We wore him out. Wore her out.
Here's a little riddle. Here's a little riddle for you. About dogs that my father used to say. If a dog's job is to lay around and eat all day, what is he doing his day off? Think about that. I'll repeat that again. If a dog's job, his full-time job, 8-hour job, if a dog's job is to sit around and eat and lay around all day, what does he do on his day off?
Chase tail.
I don't know. Anyway, that's a corny little riddle.
Chasing tail.
That's a corny little riddle that my father used to say. So.
Oh, he's a dog. Is chasing some dog's tail. There we go.
Well, let's do one serious song. Brother Smith likes the music Sinatra, so I'll do Night and Day before we conclude.
Okay, I don't know the words, so go take it away.
That's okay. And that is Night and Day by Sinatra, and we would have done the music of Sinatra on this version of Asaph Cafe if Brother Smith had not gotten sick.
Okay then.
So we just hope he gets well.
Thank goodness for germs.
And if he gets to see this, he can see that Night and Day was played just for him.
Brother Smith, call me and I'll give you some antidotes to make you feel better.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to conclude this version of Asaph Cafe with our sit-in guest for Brother Smith, little Pee-wee. She's a cute little doggy, and so she was our guest, and this version was an impromptu, unrehearsed, unpracticed, unprepared version of Asaph Cafe, and we talked about disco, and I tried to play some disco tunes off the top of my head. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Brother Smith, you get well soon, and on behalf of myself and Patti, Maranatha. Let me go finalize this right now.